The next vinyasa is called Urdhva Dhanura Vinyasa, which means upward bow position. The back bends. So we're lying on our back. When we start off, there's 3 simple hip lifting positions, commonly also known as Setubandha or the bridges. So the first one is just to lift the hips off the floor. When we come up into the first one, we're not lifting all the way up onto the neck, just onto the upper back, activating the buttocks and stretching the arms up to the ceiling. Here, if we can, you lift the shoulders up off the floor so the shoulders are protracting and you're actually pressing the upper back down into the floor, stretching the back. When you come down out of these positions, you roll down, and then to help release the lower back from an arched position, tilt the tailbone up, activate the pelvic floor muscles. Also to help release the wrists, make a fist with the wrist so you're tensing the muscles around, push up to the ceiling. Then roll the shoulders inwards and stretch the wrists down. This is one of the quickest and most effective ways of releasing the wrists after any weight-bearing positions. This one wasn't weight-bearing, but each bridge potentially links into a full back arch, so you still release as if you had done the full back arch. The second bridge, when we come into it, this one is actually going to be arching the back. So we lift the hips up, and as we come into it, we're moving more up onto the neck and shoulders. You lean on one shoulder and then the other shoulder and move the shoulders closer together. Then if it's simple and easy, you interlock your fingers, press the hands down into the floor. From this position, you're trying to lift your chest closer to the chin. So it is a back arching position. If it's hurting your lower back, you need to lower the hips or try walking your feet a little bit further away. Sometimes to get up, there's a tendency to have the feet a little bit too close towards your bottom. And then again, when we release from this pose, you gently roll down, flatten the lower back to the floor, activate the pelvic floor, push up with the arms and stretch the wrists, rolling the shoulders in. The third bridge. Now, the third bridge is not necessarily for everybody. If you have any back pain or wrist pain when you attempt to do this, you should stay in the second bridge. The third bridge, we come up again and move firstly to the second bridge, interlocking the fingers and wriggling the shoulders. And then release the hands. And you try, if you can, to bring the heel of the hand to your sacrum. The bottom is pressing down into the hands and the thighs are rolling inwards, internally rotating. Then we release, coming down, flattening the lower back again, making a fist with the hands, stretching the wrists, activating pelvic floor. So just to clarify, with that particular position, where your hands are, it's quite important. So just to show you in standing, the thumb stays with the rest of the fingers and your hands are down on your sacrum, which is quite low down near the spine. So not up here on the waist, quite down low on the buttocks. From that third bridge, when we finish that, we have the option to do a complete back arch, Urdhva Dhanurasana. Again, one does require a certain amount of shoulder flexibility and back flexibility and strength to do this. So if it doesn't happen easily by yourself, please don't do it. You must stay just in the bridge positions. When you're coming to a back arching position, the first step is to take the hands over the shoulders, your fingers pointing towards you. And then you slowly press on your hands and feet and lift the hips and the upper back up off the floor. In the first position, you can rest head to floor and then eventually working towards straightening the arms. When you're coming down, bend the elbows, lifting the head up. And again, coming to the releasing position, making a fist with the hands. Roll the shoulders in and stretch the wrists. Tilt the tailbone up. Activate the pelvic floor muscles.
And then from that position, the next one we do is a supine back bending series. So, from a cross-legged position, having finished the previous vinyasa, you can lie down. So to lie down, you slide the sitting bone forward, roll onto your lower back first, and flatten the lower back without causing distress. Then lie in your middle back, upper back, and the head can come down. And so your back is flat to the floor. Here we do 3 different types of extended bridges. So from this position, relax. So when your back is flat to the floor, which already is lengthening the spine, you can feel what a flat back feels like. Some people can't flatten the back to the floor. Maybe the lower back stays off the floor. If you can't flatten your back to the floor, it's not right or wrong, but it does tell you that that part of the back will not be able to bend forward. If it can't even flatten, then it probably can't bend forward. So it's normal, however, for the back not to flatten when your legs are straight. So when your legs are straight, there's a tendency for the back to arch a little bit, because usually the front of the hips are firm. But a really healthy, natural spine will pretty much come back flat to the floor if you totally relax, and especially if the knees are bent. So with the knees are bent, back flat, keep a sense of the spine being lengthened, and then, if comfortable, take the arms up to the ceiling. With the arms up to the ceiling, then lengthen 1 vertebrae at a time. So in the beginning, this is a forward bend. It's like a wave-like action, with the feet hip width, slightly turning the feet out, but squeezing the thighs inwards from the big toes, pushing the heels outwards from the heels. Then lift up the sitting bones. So the spine is still straight. Lift up the navel and the ribs and the chest, and you're resting here on your upper back. So it's this part of the back that you're resting on, and the back of the neck as well. Lift the shoulders off the floor. Now from here, the tailbone is moving toward the toes and up, but the navel should move away from the toes and up. The ribs away from the toes and up, then lift the shoulders off the floor toward your hips and rest in the back of the neck. Breathe into the abdomen, and then roll down 1 vertebrae at a time. So feel, if you can, every vertebrae. Feeling 1 vertebrae at a time really tells you how much of your spine is accessible to you. The second time, you can lift up the hips again, 1 vertebrae at a time if comfortable, and then once you're up, if possible, take the hands to the floor, press on your hands, and then bring the hands to interlock. Now to interlock the hands, it'll help if you lean on your left shoulder, provided it's not uncomfortable. Take the right shoulder under. Lean on the right shoulder, take the left shoulder under, and if possible, interlock the fingers. With the fingers interlocked, bring the shoulders closer together until the neck no longer touches the floor. And the ability to bring the shoulders to touch each other with the neck not on the floor, that's a necessity for doing shoulder stand later. So press the head into the floor gently, chin in, neck back. Bring the shoulders closer together and closer to the hips. And then lift the groins higher. Tailbone toward the toes and up, navel away from the toes and up. And relax the abdomen. Breathe into the abdomen. Feel the breath into the lower back. And the thighs, squeezing inwards from the big toe, outwards from the heels, and that firms you. Breathe into the abdomen to calm you. And then come down 1 vertebrae at a time. Lower back flat to the floor. Back flat. And then a third one. Lift the tailbone, lift the navel, lift the ribs, separating tailbone to toes and up, navel away from toes and up, lift the shoulders up, and then interlock the hands again behind the back if comfortable. Lean on one shoulder, take the other shoulder under. Lean on the second shoulder, take the other shoulder under. Then if comfortable, bend the elbows and support the hands on the hips. And then push the sitting bones against the hands and lift the tailbone toward the toes and up. Navel away from the toes and up, but push the hips against the hands if comfortable, and you feel the sacrum starts to stretch, provided there's no pain. The sacroiliac joint starts to open. Now keep the sense of the spine lengthening, so you're not just collapsing. Move the navel away from the tailbone. Move the ribs away from the navel. Chest away from the ribs, collarbone further away, and relax the rest of the body. Breathe into the abdomen. Then keep the neck on the floor, lift the hips up, and if comfortable, bring the hands under the shoulders. And so then press the hand into the floor, lift the shoulders off the floor, and push the hand into the floor, lift the collarbone first. So armpits lift first, then the collarbone, and the sense is not to feel like you're lifting fully up. You keep the elbows bent. It's like a double-legged lunge upside down, half push-up. Now move the tailbone toward the toes and up, navel away from the toes and up, so you separate the lower back. If you straighten your elbows fully, you can jam the lower back. So move the chest away from the navel, the collarbone away from the chest, but move the tailbone toward the toes and up. And progressively you can open the spine more, but not with a sense of shortening the lower back. So tailbone toward the toes and up, and thighs turn inwards, feet turn outwards, thighs try and turn inwards. Heels push out, front of feet push in gently, and tailbone toward the toes and up. Navel away from the toes and up. Chest away from the navel. Armpits away from the floor, and then perhaps the elbows can straighten a bit. But it shouldn't feel like you're having to tense, or it shouldn't feel like you can't relax the abdomen. Breathe into the abdomen. The posture firms you. Thighs squeezing in, heels pushing out firms you. Separate the spine. Breathe into the lower back. And then back flat to the floor. And back flat to the floor. It shouldn't feel like your back feels relieved to flatten to the floor. Then you know that you haven't squashed anything. So bring the lower back to the floor, and you can stretch the wrists out by making a gentle half fist. Turn the shoulders in, push the shoulders toward the hips and ups, and flatten the lower back to the floor. With the lower back flat to the floor, that firms you. Pushing the lower back into the floor, lift the sitting bones slightly up towards your head. Push the armpit slightly towards the hips, and that firms your abdomen. Now breathe into the abdomen.